Tenzin Dorjee, Tenzin Dorjee, Tenzin
Let us think about all kind mother sentient beings and cultivate the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating all of them from cyclic existence and its suffering. And it's with that kind of bodhichitta motivation that we should all participate in this teaching. As Buddhist practitioners, it is very, very important for us to take refuge every day in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So that should be our ground practice or foundation practice. There are many ways to take refuge in the three jewels or three ratnas, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. We could do that by way of just simply reciting lines or saying certain words, and by way of really, mentally or conceptually thinking about or taking refuge in them. As we take refuge in them, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we have to cultivate the two essential causes of refuge. One, we reflect on the suffering nature of samsara or cyclic existence and generate sense of fright or fear in relation to samsara's suffering. And then the second cause is that we develop complete trust or faith in the abilities of the three jewels to help us to be free from samsara. So by cultivating those two causes of refuge, we go for refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha.
Nyam Shinkin, and it is tall and Cargorsen, Senjitan you to the Sanji Thomas Chago, Yambita, Kuno Nandakite, Ranke, Cheshabata, Rantam Ched Maimpa, Ranta Ye, Tamji Quadang is only do it Chedo, and Chushago somebody. Then the Jitakuno Chitangundo.
In a kind of a universal sense, as Buddhists, so we cultivate those two essential causes of refuge and take refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. But as we follow Bodhisattva's way of life or Mahayana Buddhism, greater vehicle Buddhism, then it is essential for us to cultivate the altruistic motivation or bodhichitta motivation and then take refuge in the three jewels. Now what does that mean is that we are not preoccupied with our own personal liberation from samsara, but as a matter of fact we see similarities, commonalities between self and others, and as much as we want to be free from samsara, so are all other sentient beings. And we are all karmically connected. So therefore, in order to liberate both self and others completely from the state of suffering and place ourselves in the state of complete enlightenment or Buddhahood, we generate bodhichitta or altruistic motivation, and with that motivation, now we take refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So our refuge practice is for the benefit of both self and others, and so that is unique to, if you will, Mahayana practitioners.
Lendel sounds Lendel and Yichibi, that never go.
So as part of our refuge practice, we all need to develop a conviction in the infallible working of law of karma and its results.
So Lendel Yiche, Deva Yichi and Lendel Yichi men. Now, why is it so important for us to cultivate conviction in the law of karma and its operation? Is if we don't care about, law of karma, if we don't care about our actions and their consequences, then, basically, we might end up doing anything and everything because, after all, what does it matter? So we won't care about, negativities and anything like that because, after all, we really don't have a belief in such consequences. So if
we don't care about negativities, we might end up doing, innumerable negativities, and all these negative karmic actions will bring negative consequences, and therefore we ourselves will have to go through the consequences of our negative karmic actions.
So that's so any land sharing. The Namidri younger Santa Legame, Miguel Lita Mambukin was still known in those shaving. The Namita Rana younger is and Bitaiche, never to go.
So we must cultivate this kind of, belief or conviction that if I indulge in certain negative actions, then I am the one who will have to experience their results or the consequences. So if I do a particular negative action, that particular negative action will bring its negative results or outcomes which I must experience.
No. So sad dejansi so saya dan divajan but so san sanje combatteur ki so saya jeshi ta ranjule bi divat jan tingi bote do chego.
So as I often emphasize these two things, as practitioners, we all need to do these two practices or two types of practice, if you will. In Tibetan, we call it tsoksak Tibetan. Tsoksak means we need to accumulate merit and wisdom. So we call it practice of accumulation, tsoksak. Tibetan, practice of purification, because we have lots of defilements and negativities within us, so we need to purify ourselves of these negativities and defilements. And it is through this process, it is through practices of accumulation and purification that we seek progress on spiritual paths leading to complete enlightened state, our ultimate spiritual goal.
That thing Kanuki debate, Kanuki and Rosh Shagos. Yamana Chosai, Devajank, Thing in Pembach, never the Gogers.
So the point I'm trying to make here is, when we undertake actions, we could only do three types of action: physical action, verbal action, mental action. So whatever actions we undertake or we perform, we should see that our actions, they have something to do with those two practices I just mentioned, whether they have something to do with accumulation of merit. If we do something positive physically, verbally, and mentally, they all go into that category. Or that we take actions of body, spirit, and mind which help us to purify ourselves of all mental obscurations or negativities.
So that's it, the meaning. You tell a mambo, you are Shawalandro mambo, you are cheated. That church are shaving and a day, being in the pampered in the room and was still sometimes.
So if we are completely preoccupied with the needs of only this lifetime, that we want to be billionaires or anyway extremely rich, that we want to have all kinds of worldly success, then whatever actions we undertake to fulfill these wishes of ours, they really do not constitute either accumulation practice or purification practice, do they?
Chen de la Sano Tanita, Chushavate, Chus Droguamar, the Mondrea Garrison, Sosa to Chen Dundun Droguamari, Dravajan Chedon Droguam Sosa, that Ranga Ane Pe Tsendi, Tsendi, Tato with on Mini, shaving at that Chumria that does race.
So it's important for us to understand that, maybe in the name of Dharma or something, we think we are engaging in Dharma or spiritual actions and activities, but we are doing everything with all kinds of worldly attitudes and concerns that we are so preoccupied with the needs of this lifetime and interest of this lifetime that we need to be rich, we need to be successful, we need to be famous, and we need to own, all kinds of material things. And with those, intentions and preoccupations, if we engage in what seems like Dharma actions, but they really don't become spiritual or Dharma. So that's very important for us to see, as I just explained to you, that if our motivations are all to do with this lifetime, get rich, get beautiful, brave, whatever, okay, I didn't say those things, but to make the list longer, and then, do some kind of practice, but that practice does not either become accumulation practice or become purification practice. So in other words, in the bottom line is, so that doesn't become practice at all. So that's important for us to understand.
No. That's also the that correct
So if we need to do purification practice and accumulation practice, but of these two practices, which one do you think is more important? Purification practice is more important.
Sanjay Kompatoy Shabala Ane Tatin Takana Yiki Mangu Juni Togo Yoris. So that thing is that driba joint kitchen member, the impact the Jeremy Canando, Slapper lady on ne chewe, June the top gets on temperatures. On so side the driba joint nane, and the driba joint kitchen breast canal. The driba joint is standing young, Yambo Togi, Tommy gon driba joint kitchen breast canal.
It is more important, for us to do purification practice, relatively speaking, than accumulation practice. Of course, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do the accumulation practice. That's important as well. But of these two practices, if you ask which is more important for us, then it's the purification practice. Why? Because for us to be able to evolve spiritually and develop spiritually, we need to purify ourselves of all defilements and negativities. And so if we want to become Buddha, we got to be pure of all the defilements. And as great Master Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa, who is also known as Je Rinpoche, said elsewhere, and Geshe quoted the lines from his memory, he said, we must especially purify ourselves of karmic obscurations, karmic obscurations, and to do that, we must always apply what is known as 4 powerful antidotes or opponent forces, in Tibetan called Nyenpo Top Shi. Nyenpo meaning antidotes, Top meaning powerful, Shi meaning 4. So 4 powerful antidotes. So when we do purification, it is essential, if you will, we need to apply what is known as 4 powerful antidotes for the purification to be effective.
Lamcho drola tsingi tsangwe tensi. Lamchi cho droba shabala ane tsingi tsangwe ten. Ta jen joju tsangwe ten, ta milu ten naba tawa ten rik togu res. Lamcho drola tsingi tsangwe ten, manye pardos. Ten manye pardos sashe mayong res. Ane ta haza de ten shawa ki lembe yene ten dhigam te lamcho droya gala ane ten zangbo ki chagu yama res. Ta lamcho droba la ten karagwasana ta jen joju tsangwe milu ten naba tawa ten rik togu res. Te toba shabala ane diba de kanjanga rang de save ane diba de diba de jongres lanjo de singde manye pardo sashe mayongres te masang bi jola labs de gosun de tent me pavande hawale de jongane ju jun dogi changwa temba kes zukanando.
In the complete version of what Lama Tsongkhapa stated, and Geshe quoted the whole lines from his memory, where Lama Tsongkhapa or Je Rinpoche tells us that in order to make good progress on the spiritual path, we must find what is known as fully endowed human form or human life. And so without which, if we find any kind of life, that may not be good enough for our spiritual development, or we may not be able to make much spiritual progress, based on other forms of life. So it is very important for one to find a fully endowed human life for tremendous spiritual progress, and for that we need to purify ourselves of negativities of body, speech, and mind, and other defilements. And in order to purify ourselves of all such defilements, particularly karmic obscuration, we need to apply 4 powerful antidotes, consistently.
That means that Nyenpo top give the doses. Ane nereta ane dereta ale jabat go ta ane jabaten jabashi ane nye aden flat dope nye bal flat dobasta nye bal flat dobe jabashi ada ta shinji meje sam donsen shenyi bote kira kechmores tinyiche.
So if 4 powerful antidotes are essential for effective purification practice, what are they? 1, we must develop a strong regret or contrition for the negativities that we have already done and accumulated. So that is what we call the power of regret or power of contrition. Nyembo Sunchimba in Tibetan. And the second one is, as we regret strongly for the negativities we have already done and accumulated, now we should firmly resolve not to do them again. That is called the power of resolution. In Tibetan.
Tati yes, that danger top down, Nimbukun top nearest. Danger top see at Chanju Sam Gombata, Hije Gombata, Sinkin La Pensam Gombata, danger top Chaguaris. Nay, Doji Samba Gonita, Ijan Damala, they so any can't do any Churk on Sheva, Nimbi top Chaguaris.
And then there is what we call the power of reliance, literally translating Tenjitop. Now, what that means is, if we cultivate altruistic state of mind or bodhichitta, great compassion. So these constitute power of reliance or going for refuge, and then another power is the power of applying antidotes. We call applying antidotes, consistently or regularly. And so that involves basically any virtuous practice or spiritual practice we do. Again, cultivating love, compassion, altruism, doing Vajrasattva meditation and recitation, doing Avalokiteshvara meditation, recitation, and you just name it. So all the spiritual practices we do constitute antidotes to counteract our negativities.
No, that Senji Yela maybe Hinji Gombata. And they Senji Yela maybe Shamba Gombata, Shiraki Chim Digazonel, and they Chanju Sam Gombata, Tony Domichero Gombatunzu, Pemizeta, Nyembo and Chulja Chaguaris.
So some of the best antidotes to purify our negativities are cultivating love, which is cultivating, I should say, great love for sentient beings, that is wishing every sentient being to be endowed with happiness and its causes. Cultivating compassion, great compassion for sentient beings, that is wishing every sentient being to be free from suffering and its causes. Cultivating altruistic state of mind or bodhichitta, that is wishing to work for enlightenment for the sake of all other sentient beings, and cultivating insight into emptiness, the way in which everything actually exists. So these are some of the best antidotes we could cultivate to counteract our defilements and negativities.
That's only Senjin maybe, that's Senjin, you send it here, and they never see it will be Karsindica. Kasipan to the pound. Pember do it account to the Yarin with Abakan and was the Chidaki members.
As His Holiness the Dalai Lama is often fond of advising us, in a very simple, very down-to-earth, easy to understand things, but yet very profound, that all of us in our everyday life, we should do our best not to do anything that is harmful to others. We should do our best, to help or benefit others. So in those simple, if you will, looks like statements, we have our, real profound practices that we could do in our everyday life.
Voilà, that casin chinsam Karesna Casin any Georgia can't show any that coming which man on the was the Dakasin the Mark Lena at the any J. Sin Sasmo. J. Shinsare. Tali Guba the Karesna Jimbe Cho Machapa in Stakanata. Jimba Tangan Cho Javakarezna, Machapa ins.
Now I want to go back to the 22 responses great Adisha gave to his 3 great disciples. I think last time we did 8 of them, and now the 9th one should be, he said, the best form of giving or generosity, Shimbecho in Tibetan, is what we call non-attachment.
다 다시 좋거든. 저 안에 간저 나름 그다음 뒤에 차로 봤어. 트랜슬러 인도 커버 봤어.
So, as many of you have listened to Lamrim teachings, and you might have read Lamrim books that where we deal with practices of 6 perfections or parameters. So here we are also talking about giving or generosity.
다 간에서 때때 무엇임을서 짐바 동안 셔발다 도시네. 렘바 포다. 동화 포다 아니 진짜 파 대주가 대제시네. 도 숨이어레스.
So in order for us to be able to do any form of practice properly, we need to educate ourselves about different aspects of that practice. In the case of giving, we need to understand what are the factors or the agents or things involved in giving. Of course, there has to be a giver, and then there has to be a receiver, and then there has to be what called the substance of giving, something that is being given, a thing or an object or whatever, something is transferred or given. So there are those 3 things involved in giving. So in other words, what is involved in giving is the one who gives, the giver, the one who receives, the receiver, and what is being given. And it is very important to understand what does giving or generosity really mean. What is it? What is its nature? Right? Otherwise, what does it mean? I'm doing giving. So it's very important for us to understand what giving really means. So in a very kind of ordinary sense, usually we may consider like if we give someone a food or someone drinks, so we thought, well, that's giving, right? I give something to eat, I give something to drink, right? So we will think, well, that's giving. So but that's what tells us then, if giving means, giving something material, in this case is food, drink, or whatever, then we are defining giving very materialistically. So giving means some kind of object almost, right? There has to be something visible thing that is being transferred. So if we identify giving as the same as what is being given, then that means something that is, that we could eat, something that we can drink, something visible has to be there for the giving, right?
다 짐바세 가르잖아. 동샘들에서. 동샘데. 뜻대고 삼바치 여러와서. 들 짐바세 그래.
But what really giving is, what is giving or generosity done in Sanskrit or Chinba in Tibetan? Chinba is defined as the wish to give. It's the mind to give.
이 짐바 동전에 생구톤에 딱 배려 땅으로서.
So, the wish to give means we have to mentally let go, detach from what is being given. It's a state of mind. So giving is not so much what is being given, but it is, the wish to give. It's the letting go. It is the non-attachment. It's the detachment.
Lenta, jimba tongde, jimba number tamba tongde jani, lenta rewa me pas. Ngin de part in the tune de le me was never. And then David Yan Taba in Jungle Samba, then they get some map tony, who pensing cone gone. 아니 야 건줄 부비는 다 소소히 배연 피해시 마진바 땅비는 펜션 코니고니 땅고레스.
So when we give, the real giving, should not have any expectation in return. It's like, if I give, then what do I get in return? Do I get some kind of appreciation, or do I get some kind of a positive result, or some kind of, I give this time, and sometime in the future, they have to give me back something. No games being played here, no politics, no expectation, no hopes, no conditions and strings attached to this. It's just a pure state of mind. Yes, I want to give. Let go of that attachment and expectations. So we give with beneficial intention, right? So with a beneficial state of mind or positive state of mind, we make offerings to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So that is also giving. We appreciate their kindnesses and we make offerings to them. Or with beneficial intention, we give to the poor and the needy. So, but we should not expect anything in return. There should not be any agenda hidden behind. No politics and games involved here. Should not be.
람브레는 소 짐바텔 파도 셰베기나 야와카시미 쳔도 람브레나라니 짐바텔 야와탄 두신 숨 갓난도 와스.
Now, do you remember how many forms of giving are there, or at least talked about in the lumbering, practices? So, how many types of generosity or giving are there?
Voilà, tate sumbote doserbas sanzing jimbas gikshe.
Lumbering talks about three types of giving. One, giving of material gift, sangsingi chimba.
Sangsingi chimba. Ta nimba den chöji jimbas.
And the second one is chöji chimba, giving of spiritual gift or giving of dharma.
Voilà, ta ane sumbotele minji pijimbas. Seyan sangsan shabji jimbas segure.
And the third one is the giving of protection or fearlessness, giving of fearlessness.
Voilà, that's it. Tan do sin da sung ge nan da san zeng ge ba yang ran zu se da gom da ge da da ende ge da ko yo je den zu zhe ba den zu san zeng ge ba.
So giving food, giving drinks, giving money, and whatever those material things we give, all of those belong to what is called the giving of material substances or material gifts.
다 산세가 짐바 때야 아니 다 코에 뜻이 짐바 때 개체모 임버. 가디 고고도나 페나 어레 다 안데 무기 뜻이 세짐바다 무기 찬니 아다 디자인 세짐바다 아니 때에 다 꼼세 꼼그 아니 동에 그 동링이 뜻을 아니 꼼짐바다 아니 고메네 고지 아니 메네 아니 차바도 칙발아서 버데 동행을 들으려는 거지 짐바 노신의 강 코아테 짐바이나 때때 개침버레스 개침버레스 간.
So even in terms of giving material gifts, if we give the things which the others truly need at the time of their need, let's say, people are dying of starvation, not enough food. So if we give food, so then that's really, we're giving what they truly need. So that should be more beneficial giving. Or if people are dying of thirst, in order to quench their thirst, we give drinks to them, so that's really fulfilling their needs. Or people need clothing, otherwise, they are frozen to death, or they are burned by the, scorching sun, so we give what they really need to protect them from heat and cold. So, giving the things they truly need at the time of need, so that makes the giving more beneficial practice.
Gomboludruki, Umarin Chichon Kanando, Kanla Tuki Pendruna, Della Tuche Zimbrashas. Ta Kanje Rank Jiutele Pengadona Jingur Matote, Jiute Gurgudus and Gurbatan Pembenikaris. And did something about Tongaris.
as I was explaining to you the other day, sometimes we have to think that somebody might have all kinds of needs, but what will really benefit them? Sometimes the needs and the benefits do coincide, as in the examples I just gave you. But sometimes maybe, there are needs, but we cannot fulfill all the needs, and maybe it's not important to fulfill all those needs. And as Arya Nagarjuna states in his Ratna Avali, or the precious garland, and Geshe quoted the line, he said, if we really, that means it means, I think, based on many conditions, we truly know it is going to be beneficial. If somebody needs a poison, and that's really going to benefit that, then give poison. And an example is, peacocks need poisonous plants to thrive, to shine their feathers, to live. So if we give poisonous plants to the peacock, which is their, diet or food, well, that is the beneficial giving. On the other hand, if hunters and sports of all kinds, if they need our help, they say, "Oh, can you help me to hunt down animals?" Or then we should not do that. Yes, they need the help, but that we should not give because it's not beneficial. So material giving is basically any material resources we have in samsara. When we give them, to benefit others, so that is what we call giving. Again, as I explained before, just giving the material thing may not constitute giving, but there has to be the wish to give, the mind to let go, no strings attached, along with that material giving. So that's what really giving is. And now the second form of giving is the giving of spiritual gift or giving of dharma, Chöji Chimba. And Geshe says that we can all do that.
No. So was Chöji Chimba singing the Chutumbuji Kandeni, Lucian Tamambuji and Lucia Corney. The Nigo Maris Kare is the social in the country shape goblet. Country Manu Kari Hingu and this shape goblet. Any Rang tea so come many at Mimai in the Tahama in the Batat and they train in the Sanji Konde Mambo, Tanzula Jimba Shegu, Sambashi. I to buy Shalotaman, Zaniki, Sharazanda, Tendila, Tendiki, Rang, and Chu Kidat Kobina, till Pengus and Pensango on those in the Shavina, Chujimba Chagio Riscan.
As it is stated in the Lamrim treatises, in order to practice giving of spiritual gift or dharma, one does not need to sit on a high throne and being surrounded by a large gathering of people looking at you. Because when we do our daily practice of prayers and so on, there may not be anybody, next to us, but we can think of, we can think about the invisible beings. There are those beings with no forms. Formless beings, some of them are there who want to listen to the sound of Dharma teaching. So we can think of giving a spiritual gift to these invisible, beings who could be around us. Or when we are taking our walk alone in a nice, beautiful, trekking or whatever, if there are nobody around, we could still recite prayers and thinking that, may these, sounds of the prayers benefit the birds and the other animals around in that environment. So that also constitutes giving of spiritual gift.
So that Geshe Tsultim Gyeltsen like Ale Masum Kon like get and this those moderate sugar that moderate and chunko shajares. Lava Yeva to your Vala. Yeva to do seduction Chingarwa. The Chusons and they chut them be chunko shajares. This chain, fly get and lutan nujikis, fly get, Louis, Flata, fly get and lunaji, lutan nujiki, Dromujiki, driven Tatang, Tasa, Tatak, the Mambujatin, carry Mambu in that tribushi. That me canata, draw a quincy down at Chizampas. And then so any data twin. Tangi get the dark treat and those Rana and they get the timber and treat them hints and that's my sunguerta.
Which I don't do during the teaching here, is that you would recognize it. But often, our lineage, great spiritual masters, so before they give teaching, they, as Geshe demonstrated in front of you, so they would hold the hand gesture or the mudra, which shows that I'm turning the wheel of Dharma. I'm giving teaching. I'm going to give teaching. Okay, so that's called the mudra, Dharma chakra parivartin mudra, the gesture of turning the wheel of Dharma. And then they recite a whole, several lines, which is more than stanza, probably a stanza and a half or two, and which basically says that I'm going to give teaching, and may all sentient beings hear the teachings in their own languages. May the divine beings hear the teaching in the divine language. May the Nagas hear the teaching in their Naga language. May the Asuras and the Gandharas and all of them, the Yakshas and the invisible beings of all kinds, and may the humans and all other forms of beings, whatever their languages are, may they be able to get the teaching in their own languages. So they recite those lines before they give the teaching.
No, Saji come de Anante show that Sak Temple and English, but then treating the Zanda, and draw around a gate the temperature, conduct. Peno Saji come in the Chusung because Kirimunda, Tontamambo Yana, Tanzul, and a case Jugu Yamari, Sanjay Hen in those my Sanskrit, the cake told my Kana Sani, and draw around a gate the temperature, so is a conduct. This Sanjay Sung you theory.
So bodhisattvas on a higher spiritual grounds, and Buddhas or enlightened beings, when they teach, that really literally happens. They could speak in one language, but because of the power of the intention, so every sentient being could hear their teachings in their respective languages. Okay, so when Buddha speak, let's say, teach in Sanskrit, then all beings could hear the teaching in their own languages, and there is no need for translations into multi-language languages. They just hear it. That's one of the unique, perhaps exclusive quality of Buddha's speech. They can speak in one language, and others can hear in, all their respective languages.
This Sanjay Sung, you think that so around get too much conduct.
So that is because of the power of enlightened speech that beings are able to hear the teaching in their own languages.
So that around giving it to the those in the night and so any Sanjay and those in it by he drinks on his rivata. Those in the park, I close that to me language. Teaching on Sanjay come there, round giving it to Sanjay of the Yabertang around so not only sound of the Kunam those in language, somebody.
As our gurus or the spiritual masters, they perform the gesture of giving teaching, and they recite those lines where their intention is for every sentient being to hear the teaching in their own languages. We should wish the same thing. From a guru devotion practice, what we need to see our gurus, meaning qualified gurus we take for granted, as real Buddhas. And if they were to be real Buddhas, then they could speak in one language, and everybody else should be able to hear their teachings in their respective languages.
That is anything Garisha. Ane Chujima, that's Menji Bijim Basenders. Menji Bijim Bas and Menji Bijim. Anything hand to Shania. Can't you unique and do canals? Chujimba Siate, nyomon bata mande pajin ga go go chejo cheji nyomon ji minbe do so yangda ji gitas do da tenju gomba kande ina ma chebe ina yate nyomon bata mande kuno namba tawaje gon tengo res kanang
as great Indian master Acharya Vasubandhu in the footnote, brother of Acharya Asanga said, and Geshe quoted the lines clearly, that he said, what is really important as a matter of essential in the giving of spiritual gift, dharma, is the pure motivation. He said the giving of spiritual gift should not be contaminated by delusions. So that means there shouldn't be a deluded motivation or hidden agenda, behind giving dharma, spiritual gift. It should be a pure motivation. So it's just wish to benefit others.
No, so that attention, the so young that gives, and then so that manu cartembe in a social kind shebate, potential meshibate yani, shing mason, ticketing, shing mason and the girl. The kind shebate treat too much about the young Tamil.
So the spiritual giving can be like answering somebody's questions, and we do that with pure motivation, without any hidden agenda or deluded motivation, and honestly answer the questions we really know the answers to, and then honestly tell them that I don't know this. So that's fine. Just don't have to talk about the things we don't know, but tell them what we really know with pure motivation, and that could be also giving of spiritual gift.
Ni indiksa so sanse di jimba de jimba ni indikwe she ta shab ji jimba sinan da menji bi jimba seyate ane tan jikta yon ken jikta de shopping ina ta menji bi jimba chagna.
So we talked, though, very briefly about giving of material gift, giving of spiritual gift or dharma, and the third one is the giving of fearlessness or protection. So that basically means that if any life is in danger, and if we can save that life or protect that life, so that is, giving of fearlessness.
Yeah, so that and ane that mean nyenka you so down. So down the legal any yanka you get in the duna. That's what you shop to the never shop.
So what that, the giving of fearlessness protection means that, if we have a power or ability to protect someone in a life from dangers, right? Someone's life is in danger, is at risk, and someone really is afraid of, situations, and if we can help that person, so then try to protect their life. So that's what we call giving fearlessness.
So that tell Rawa Mebachi Google Mato, near Ropan Dishina, Kurans and Ding, Kurans and the younger something. There is somebody turning Mebachi Google.
So again, as in other forms of giving, we should not have any condition attached to protecting someone's life or helping save someone's life. Like, well, if I save your life this time, so next time you owe me, big thing.
Yeah, but the name of you was when Lam make a lamp thing at all. Tendition, sharing in the cook. Trade the timber down. Call Pembachimato, call never see some Tony, Rokoshi Germanis.
So, we can, practice giving in, everyday situations, right? Somebody needs a direction. So we really wish to benefit that person, we show the direction if we know it, right? But don't, give the wrong direction or try to trick or just pretend to know it, and then that's harmful, If we know the direction, give the direction with pure, heart and mind.
That thing, Minji Bijimba, Shepjimbas. Penandiri, Malareba, Nusin. Number short and any short any present me Malareba Tapun and it Yonsheni short and woman in Ganyan dishes to the church in the Yaris.
So if you read the life stories of great Yogi Milarepa, you will hear of many interesting, positive changes happen with people. Right at one point, there was a hunter chasing a deer, and both the deer and the hunter ended up at Milarepa's cave, and then Milarepa somehow transformed both of them, and they both ended up listening to Milarepa's teaching.
That's how much big pay. I mean, Harun, Kawatini Herne, Con, and Radaki Shava Gibris.
Eons and eons before Shakyamuni Buddha was, became a Buddha. Rather, was like he was not even close to becoming a Buddha. Eons and eons before that, when he was on the paths and grounds, at one point he was a deer, an animal.
That is so that I Tendicileta. Number Mambuchi Yoja, that is Samalo, Nabja Yoimari. Naja put Samalo Bear Soak, that soul in Negativity, that Drogo, Trades and I, Tiparu, that Chichimushi, Consider Kanji, that young signing, Karina, that Chimuchi, come to American.
So at that time, when the Buddha was a deer, as a bodhisattva, was reborn as a deer, so was among like other hundreds of deers, and then there were hundreds, chasing them, and they all, I think, either have to jump over a cliff or they have to, cross a big water or something like that.
Yeah, then call that the top conduct the dark than that of 200 cardio, so the call cheat and those launching. That cure the Tamalo that the when in the second Koran gave back on landing, gave back on the second parliament, those that and those 10 numbers.
And so Buddha as a deer happened to be the, I think, healthiest and the strongest deer in the whole group. And then what Buddha did was, he kind of situated himself in the middle of whatever that water or something, and so that all other weaker ones can jump on him, and then they can bounce to the other side of the water or the river. And that's how he saved the lives of all other, deer.
That give and those landish and give us my kumpuni pay that the niggas on the Tamak Kimbuchi child at the inn and tell any pay Zusin Nani and this thing you turn to 9 years.
So of course, imagine there's hundreds of other, jumping on your back and then bouncing to the other safe side. So that has really wounded the Buddha as a deer very much. But even with that, he, showed so much sense of forbearance or patience to save the life of others. So that is also a giving of fearlessness.
That's Jimba Tang, Trim Yabu Sungu Yaris. Trim Yabu Masun, Nega, a little Jimba Tang, Trim Yabu Sunguris.
As we practice giving, taken for granted that we practice giving properly, but we also need to observe, ethics or morality, properly as well.
That's Trim Yabu Masun, Trim Masun be changed any. The Karasi thing, Karasi. And they remember the Shigure, Takanji, Yadand of Tendeta, Tahana, Tindund of Tendeta, Tendi Shigures.
Why is, observing pure ethics important and combined with giving is, if we do not practice ethics purely or properly, but just, we are really good in doing giving, then the good results of our giving could ripen, in the form of lives such as pretas or hungry ghosts. So one could be reborn as a very rich hungry ghost. So imagine that. So what the riches could do now. Or one could be reborn as rich animals.
Tahana Yiki, Yada, Social long show to your Matu, Loshik, but you were to the garden, Jimba Tambin, Jebuti, Ninja, Ninja,
So there are, rich Nagas, and then there are rich pretas or hungry ghosts. So in the case of hungry ghosts, they can be just extremely rich, but they can't even use a teeny bit of their riches. So, imagine that one. So what that means is that the giving, generosity leads to being rich or have a lot of resources, but not observing pure ethics leads to bad rebirth.
Rang Jimbe Tangbin Jebute, and a meeting the membership alata, and a Tsuyabusungu.
So if we would like to enjoy the fruits of giving, then we also need to practice, pure ethics or morality, so that we will be able to reborn as, reborn as a human being with fully endowed human life and enjoy the fruits of giving.
다 진변 제부터 연적 때는 미그 가르레스 다 제수나스.
So if asked, actually we already answered that, but if we asked, so how come that the fruits of giving ripen in bad migrations or unfortunate states of rebirth?
다 디랜드는 니 반된 다와 저거 그만 지원 송도 왔어. 아니 쇼워 주심 강반 양민 존스. 주심지 강반 양반 인선 다 덴드 데 롱스 가진바 땅비 엔데부터 아니 내르들 멤버스가나.
And as great Indian master Acharya Chandrakirti states in his Madhyamik Avatar, or supplement to the middle way, and Geshe quoted the lines, and he used the metaphorical language there. So he basically is telling us that why the fruits of giving ripen in hell or in bad migrations is because of not, observing morality or ethics properly.
So that Shedan is again, and I didn't think top Gugana, Megachabo Surim Zebe, and Sosu Surim Yantava Domba Karlang, they are with Sungugaris.
So if we want to have a good rebirth, once again to be reborn as a human being, whose life is characterized by freedoms and enriching factors, then we have to observe ethics. At a basic level, we observe the ethics of abandoning 10 negativities of body, spirit, and mind. Then we may have taken other vows and commitments, so we need to keep all of them intact.
Umarinji Tona Zongdoa, Jimbe Lonshe, Zimba Tan Lonshe Jungarescan, Timji Days, Jimbe Lonshe, Timji Days, Trim Sumbaina, Dendro Compatogaris Ganando.
As great Nagarjuna has stated in Precious Garland, Ratna Avali, Chimbe Longje, from giving comes resources or riches. Timjite, from morality or ethics or discipline comes good rebirth.
So, Omar Jitro, which Coduling as Jarum Dende Shune, T. Nang, Jetta, Inject to Yoruba, Shanto about Tagris.
I think, it was 97 that we invited His Holiness the Dalai Lama to Los Angeles and requested for, teaching on Precious Garland. And many of you might have attended the teaching at the time. And at the time we provided, of course, the translations of the Precious Garland text, or there could be other translations of Precious Garland text. So I would advise you to read the translations and, learn about these things.
That is it. That in the Jinso Pashi Truth. Sometimes Pashi Truth, that Pashi Truth, Pashi Truth yet new, that Pashi Truth Nani. Pashi Truth Hidaka Chamberes. Shangi Sabbath is a Tambo Shangi should do shit. But the Kachi Trames so sagre, so sayate, Pashi Truth gone, that Pashi Truth in Yanage Goni. Ne Trames so son of yours.
Bodhisattvas, initially they generate bodhichitta or the altruistic state of mind, and then for 3 great countless eons they accumulate merit primarily through the 6 perfections or the 6 parameters. Sometimes we talk about 6 perfections, sometimes we talk about 10 perfections, but that's a matter of classifications. So it's very important to understand what the 6 perfections are.
Jimbe Pashin Yanle Tangaranzo, Susijo Tama Batanzoke, Jimbe Pashin Yanle sent that Shangisaba Nangi the corporate in a Chandawachi. You will die young as Susi Karasota. Jimba Jimba Machabu Tawny, Jimba Yabuji Tambina, that did the Chandawachi Chagaris. Kisan Chimuchiragu Yorvas.
So at our level, we could be engaging in the practices of 6 perfections, and if we do them really well, they may be very, similar to the perfections of bodhisattvas, but they're not one and the same thing. And let's say if we practice giving, the perfection of giving, we really do it without sense of attachment, grasping, clinging. Then our really giving comes close to the perfection of giving of bodhisattvas.
No, that one to Jane and Shigina, so positive relay to Zimbala to the one you children to and those in the Sunju to do Sunju Sodu, those in the Yoris, that's your Taina, and so on. Kita cover it, Beshatani, to something, that women and class chamber to something at Tomato, or a cover was.
In ornament for clear realization by Maitreya, which is called Abhisamaya Alangara, and in Tibetan called Ngundogen, we find explanations of how should say we find the explanation of how we could practice all the 6 perfections within each perfection. So that means when we, for example, practice the perfection of giving, we could incorporate the other 5 perfections within it. So in that way, we can talk about 36 practices of perfections, but those are a lot of details and things we need to study, and here we don't have the time and and other conditions. But at the monastic universities, who engage in years of study and debate, so these are the things they deal with.
No. So that is that, and then the Zawashigina Jimbe Cho Mashapa Yinse, that is on the telling it in the Hubre, that the Langrin down Yabatan, Yumambo on those Yabata, one can't temper the Hadijita in those Hubres.
So now this goes back to what Ati just said. He said the best form of giving is non-attachment, or perhaps some people might prefer the word detachment, provided that we understand what detachment means. And relating to that, then I have talked about, do very briefly about different forms of giving. So I have pooled my resources from Lamrim, from the precious garland, from the supplement to the middle way, and so on. So I have explained in brief what giving really is and what are different forms of giving. And we will stop there today, and as many of you already know that I will be visiting India.
Tiparu delane, that Juntaka Telane, Ne Pigilane, Kalodele, Hodolene, Chushi, you take his Majerumatic, you take his Mandusi Yoris, Kedaka Chamber, Chambers, they didn't do sin and they Tengures, then transfer Sunday Zanimale. Now you are Maris and Mayubashine Yahoyamars, you only Yahoyers. You want them can lose in my Yahoyan ancient Shavina, Pinto Chamber English.
So I will be gone for 3 weeks. So that means August 7, August 14, August 21. 3 Sundays I won't be here. I will be in India. And in my absence, I have arranged and here, for the video recorded teachings that I have given recently in Colorado. And the teachings I gave was based on Lama Tsongkhapa's foundation of all good qualities, in Tibetan called Yönden Shichurma, foundation of all good qualities. This is very important work of Lama Tsongkhapa, and so I would strongly advise you to come together on Sunday here, like as you always come to teaching, and then watch the video teachings. And then we have some prayer requests here. Rosemary Payon is hospitalized, and so prayers are requested for her. D. Laurentis had a very bad accident, and so prayers are requested for her too. No. And then, of course, we often receive requests for prayers for people who have passed away. So we make prayers accordingly to the conditions of the people, who have requested prayers for. For those who have passed away, we send our prayers and good wishes for them to find good rebirths and meet with precious teaching and qualified masters. And for those who are terribly ill and sick, may they be able to recover from their sicknesses soon, and then develop interest in Dharma and doing the positive things. So we pray to Chandra Arya Avalokiteshvara and recite Om Mani Padme Hum. Whatever merit we have accumulated together this morning, participating in the teaching, we dedicate it for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other great holy masters live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and authentic spirituality. Last but not least, we dedicate our collective merit for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly.
ma je ba no she ju ro je she wa nyam ba me ba da ko ne kon do pe wo ra sho tong ni ta wa re mo je ma je ba no she ju ro je she wa nyam ba me ba da ko ne kon do pe wo ra sho kan re ra ve ko ve shin ga de pe da de wa ma le jo me ne she re zo wa den de ja zo yi xiao be se de ba du den ju ro je sa yi be je jo je me do zhang re ro le ye ni de ye ma de san je ye do me de we wa ye do ge na da xin she bo ra jo ye dam gu ru re na ma de la ni a da ya amen.
I have one more announcement. Geshe would like, your help in that there's a Canadian company called Bombardiers, maybe some of you might have read about this, who are collaborating with Communist China to build that railway from China to Lhasa. And so we have action plans and letters to be sent to the concerned authorities. And this come from the ICT, International Campaign for Tibet in Washington, D.C. And we have few letters in the lobby. So we hope that we will sign those letters and mail them or fax them. And if we don't have enough there, you may visit the website of ICT called www.savetibet.org. And so you can print out the letters from there and mail or fax them to the authorities. So we would appreciate your help.
Angela.
Okay.
The kitchen be carried in carrying the Koyu social the Koyu Tobazoya Doria Tagana Yitamji any society Carsa Tuta Regunda Tin Merita Chimichi no, she doesn't take him, yes.
So Geshe feels, and of course we want to emphasize these points that this cooperation of the Canadian company Bombardiers with the Communist China is very destructive to the environment of Tibet and inhabitants within the environment, and for the further destruction of Tibetan identity and culture. As this railway anyway is on progress, and then there will be more civilian transfer of Chinese into the Tibetans, where Tibetans are already minority, so that's basically killing the Tibetans in their own land. As a cultural people, as a spiritual, as a human being. So we would appreciate your support here. And then another thing, just a tip on Tibetan culture is because Geshe is leaving for India for 3 weeks, so I would just simply share my Tibetan culture here that you can save your prostrations. You don't need to do prostrations, you just save them, wishing Geshe a safe trip to India, and when he comes back, you can offer the prostrations to him.
Thank you. Okay. Everybody keep it well. Practice well, walking. Okay. See you 3 weeks after. Thank you. Thank you.
I just have a very quick announcement to make.